Well, you guys wanted this, so all I can do now is hope I can deliver. So moving on from the era of Insomniac games, our first technological step onto the PlayStation 2 and Nintendo GameCube is Spyro, Enter the Dragonfly. Oh joy. I don't think I need to explain what we have here in great detail, do I? But if I must, after the original trilogy came and went, Universal needed another company to keep the Spyro IP up and running. This time they turned to Equinox Digital Entertainment and Check 6 Studios for assistance. And if you've never heard of those developers before, that's because this was the only game they ever produced. I'm not even kidding. There's a good explanation as to why that is. Let's look into this game's history. Initially, this was pitched as follows. Nasty Nork would team up with Ripto and capture all the dragonflies in the Dragon World. So anyone remembering the epilogue in the original trilogy, gut feeling says that might have inspired the events to follow from here. The game would have ran at 60 frames per second, had fast loading times, supposed dynamic weather themes, about 25 levels tops, and 120 dragonflies. On paper, it sounds like it would have at least been a solid follow-up to Year of the Dragon. But we all know what we got instead. Universal actually forced the developers to rush through the game in order to make the holiday 2002 deadline, and holy crap does it show. Ridiculous long loading times, buckets of glitches and technical errors by the dozen, 90 dragonflies in total, and 10 levels, including the boss stage. You can literally count this game's length on both hands. But I suppose you already know this. How this game went on to be infamous for all the wrong reasons, and would go down in history to be perhaps one of the worst things that come out of Spyro as we know it. Now am I exaggerating? Probably, but the fact still remains. This game's got loads of problems, and I'm here to digest every bit of it because I put myself into these situations for reasons I can't even remember. And yes, for full disclosure, I'm playing the GameCube version to save myself an extra few seconds of loading time. Cause no sugarcoating it, playing this on the PS2 would be an absolute nightmare. Anyway, enough small talk. This is Spyro, Enter the Dragonfly. Why am I sounding this excited about it? Our story this time is about as basic as you can get. We open up to... whatever the hell that was. Anywho, following the events of Year of the Dragon, we're celebrating the baby dragons earning their dragonflies. That is until out of the blue comes our big bad, Ripto. And no Nasty Nork to be found, beyond only mentioning him once. I complain about Ripto coming back to life, as weird as it is for him to practically survive being scorched to death. But I've already mentioned the epilogue dealio earlier, so whatever. I've more pressing matters on my hands, such as questioning why Crush and Gulp are suddenly talking.
What do we want this time, boss?
There are some things in life you just don't do, you know? This is one of them. There's some small talk for a while until Ripto fulfills his plan of capturing all the dragonflies, including our buddy Sparks. And because Ripto's such a skilled sorcerer, he ends up scattering the dragonflies all over the realms. Our goal being to save them all. Having found Sparks in literally a matter of seconds makes capturing him earlier completely pointless, don't you think? Bianca then works her magic on Spyro, giving him the ability to channel all sorts of elemental breaths beyond just fire. The catch being there are runes to find in order to actually use them. And you probably know the drill by now. The adventure begins.
Oh yeah, you'd think I'd remember that by now.
Now, I could have saved myself the trouble by performing a special glitch in order to get to Ripto as early as right here, but honestly, where would the fun in that be? Also, don't expect me to go into great detail about the characters in Enter the Dragonfly since 1, they're virtually the same as we remember them to be, and 2, they rarely appear throughout this game, at all. Bianca only shows up once at the start of the game, not counting the cutscene she so happens to be in. Hunter still got challenges here and there, only now his voice perhaps the most grating as it's ever been.
Hey, wait a minute! How does Farmer John have a UFO?
I thought you were talking about Farmer Dill.
Farmer Dill needs your help.
Motherfucker. And should I even mention the fact that Moneybags only shows up at one part of the game, you pay him 200 gems, and that's it? Not even getting your money back while we're at it? Yep, that's good to know. I'm totally not miffed right now. Gameplay is practically how we remember it. Flaming, charging, gliding, swimming, climbing, and headbutting. That's all here. But actually controlling Spyro this time feels so weird and finicky most of the time. Well, compared to what I'm used to anyway. Playing this game felt so sluggish and awkward, putting it bluntly. Gliding from a great height always has me crossing my fingers because there were moments where I'd fall right off when I thought I'd landed right where I needed to be. Climbing from place to place is absolutely laughable. Just look at this. Does this look right to you? And good luck actually capturing the dragonflies. Going back to the concept of elemental breaths, these dragonflies require you capturing them with your bubble breath, serving this one purpose and one purpose only. On paper, it should be easy as going up to them, surrounding them with bubbles, and be done with it. But in execution, this couldn't be further from the opposite. From their rather questionable hitboxes where you think you should have caught them by now, but you didn't, or vice versa, or even making sharp turns faster than you can charge. Sounds fun, am I right? And hey, Bianca, what you're saying right here is absolutely wrong! Because apparently, laughing in their faces definitely means they must be as shy as you described.
Ah, damn it!
Since I'm on the topic, the breaths in this game. For the most part, they're entirely situational, meaning certain obstacles will require these breaths from time to time. Aside from fire and bubbles, you also got electricity and ice at your disposal. The former can be used to power up electric poles and select machinery, and the latter can be used to freeze up enemies for you to charge through. Anyone familiar with Frozen Altars from Spyro 3 should pick up on this one. Personally, electric breath has to be the best in the whole game, having a pretty wide and open range for firing at enemies, getting the job done far too easily. The last of these abilities, however, is extremely underutilized and so useless that it's not even worth laughing at. This being the Wing Shield. Supposedly, you use this to deflect enemy projectiles and send them right back at him, but in practice, its only real use is against these wizards in one later level. In general, most of the game's abilities are nice, but a good chunk of it feels like it got the short end of the stick, resorted for mostly power-up challenges when you're basically using the correct breath against the targets surrounding the place. Speaking of power-ups, that's basically all the mileage you're gonna get out of this. Couple super flame challenges here and there, that's basically it. I realize how far I've gone without mentioning portals, given how big a role they play in the Spyro universe, but here they play a little differently. To get to each of the 9 levels in the whole game, you'll need dragonflies to power up these transportation devices such as platforms, balloons, UFOs, boats, and so on. As far as these portals are concerned, the bare minimum involves a traditional exit returning back home, and challenge portals akin to Year of the Dragon. These challenge portals play the exact same part basically. You perform special missions and minigames to earn dragonflies. How do they haul up this time around? Well, if this game excels in anything, it's inconvenience. In a world like Dragonfly Dojo, for example, with themes of ancient Chinese and Japanese culture, why, pray tell, must I go around shooting things in an army tank of all things? Defeats the purpose of peace and tranquility now, doesn't it? On the topic, said tank plays out as incredibly slow and tedious as me giving up my will to live. You move around a bit, shoot whatever's on screen, pray you're in a good position to pull through in one piece, and repeat this until it's over. And on top of that, do all this a second time in a later level with an actual time limit set in place. Just imagine the stress in that scenario. And in Cloud9's case, I'm left scratching my head as to why we need to use a jet plane to defend their palace under attack, when Spyro could just easily use some combo power-up to get the job done. Virtually could have made the same argument for Monkey Monastery using the same plane mechanic, given that world's gimmick is using monkey monks living in peace and harmony. Although they made it clear in that level they have their exceptions, allowing turrets in their realm. Then there's these platform challenges in Crop Circle Country and Thieves' Den. Basically, you light these poles with your lightning breath to defeat the enemy on screen, obtain your dragonfly, and be done. To clue you guys in on how I felt, if I ever have to play anything like the ladder minigame ever again, so help me, it will be the end of me. On that very same note, this climbing challenge is an absolute migraine, with an awful lot to take into account such as plummeting rocks, blow darts, and spiders spread throughout. Once you're actually trapped in one of these danger hazards, you're as good as dead. Frustratingly so. There are some objectives that are just passable, like catching manta rays and collecting cows through UFO dogfights, but I think my personal favorites out of all of them would have to be the 3 times you have to slide down the slope top to bottom. Those are honestly pretty fun. Speaking of, speedways are still intact, though this time as part of the levels themselves rather than being their own separate sections. I'm pretty cool with this. Primary goal is about as straightforward as any Spyro veteran will remember, and we've even got racing returning from Spyro 3. Only it's far more broken this time as you start off at 8th place rather than 6th. So to anyone wondering why they were stuck on 3rd, now you know why. Speed boosts are required to win these races. Now, I only briefly touched upon this earlier, but Christ almighty, we need to talk about the glitches in this game. Spyro 2 and 3 were especially guilty of these special exploits before, but now they're just too all over the place. I feel this was largely due to the rush development cycle of the game, and it really shows. There's exploits you can find by complete accident, sometimes they'll appear right in your face, glitches that I wonder how they even happen in the first place, and some that you'll be performing clearly and intentionally. Sometimes they'll work, other times they won't. I'd be here all week if I were to list them all down. While I'm talking about these exploits, I want to go right ahead and admit I've been using plenty of these to my advantage throughout the game, either to bypass certain obstacles earlier, or to simply get certain objectives over with sooner. Like this instance with the baby dragons eating their kites. They set it up so you'll need to come back later once you've learned the power of ice, but why do that when you could very easily do this?
If I could breathe ice like a big bad dragon, maybe I could get my kite down.
You know what, buddy? I've got a better idea in mind. Yep, you're welcome. There's also moments where they trigger either wrong dialogue for certain characters.
Yeah, tell me about it. Hi! Hi!
Hi!
Sometimes dialogue won't start up at all. Moments where they're saying one thing but the text says another.
I told you I could handle it. I wasn't born in the backcountry, you know.
And with Sparks doing most of the talking, it just leaves you wondering if they were filling in for other characters intended for moments like tutorials and certain events as the game progresses. I'm gonna go off topic here for a bit, but I'll quickly catch up on this game's many problems. Speaking of dialogue, did we really need Spyro going around shouting out names of every single dragonfly you find?
Hey, it's Alex! Hey, it's Amy! Hey, it's Bubbles!
Fucking bubbles!
Hey, it's Homer!
Go!
Hey, it's Foamy! Hey, it's Daisy!
This wouldn't be so bad aside from being a simple annoyance, but this happens each and every time. There's some Japanese names here and there like Kenichi, Yojimbo, Takehiro, Suzuki. That's all good and fine. But then we get names that just plain don't add up, even for Spyro standards. Highlights include Ice Boy, Coppertop, J-Dubs, Duckweed, Russell Tim, even though the text says Russell. Tashi Station? Well, someone's a Star Wars fan. There's Tetsu.
Hey, it's Testu!
Spyro, you serious? We got Rhett.
Hey, it's Karen!
I said Rhett! And my personal favorite,
Hey, it's Krishnamurti!
rolls right off the tongue. Getting back on track, the presentation of this game is just... oh god. This game's graphic design and atmosphere is exactly what I want to call Uncanny Valley. Living proof that replicating Spyro's polygonal style onto newer platforms point for point does not translate well at all. For the most part anyway. Aside from Spyro and maybe Sparks on some level, everyone else looks incredibly awkward and off-putting, ranging from laughably bad like Hunter and the Crop Circle Country Farmers, to extremely uncomfortable with Ripto especially. In short, the world of Spyro this time does not look all that pretty. It's either ugly, mediocre, average, or sometimes a combination of the three. Now, are there any redeeming qualities of Enter the Dragonfly whatsoever? Well, as I mentioned earlier, Spyro's character model doesn't look that bad. It's about as presentable as you can honestly make him. And while the concept's pretty much simplistic as ever, it's still worthy enough to make for a good Spyro game. And to be frank, while not entirely visually appealing, there are some areas that look rather decent and spot on. And I think the biggest positive I can give this game is its soundtrack, composed once again by Stuart Copeland. This game being the last he'll compose for our Purple Buddy up until the Reignited trilogy. Some of these tracks are honestly as good as a Spyro game can make them, with these being personal highlights for me. Needless to say, there is some good in this game to be frank. It's just unfortunate that a great chunk of it ended up in the position it is today. Now since this game is 9 levels long, I'm gonna structure these worlds rather differently, going through each of them one at a time. The Dragon World serve as our standard hub, looking rather nice in design and serving as solid a home map as all the others. Dragonfly Dojo has to be one of the few levels in the game I've got some sort of enjoyment out of. Loving the aforementioned Japanese themes throughout this level, from the admittedly astounding atmosphere to the enemy design. Everything just about works. Crop Circle Country is your standard farmers versus spaceships level. A tad cliche, but nothing special otherwise. Luau Island does look nice, set on a beach populated by pigs on vacation as we're to save them from certain death.
Say, could you do me a favor and...
Get me out of this cage!
Dude, inside voice. Oh look, the Isles from Spyro 2! Cloud 9 I'm honestly rather mixed on. While I do enjoy its music and its level design is pretty okay, there are moments of platforming that ultimately hold this back from being a major highlight. Same with Monkey Monastery, though I do like this world more than Cloud 9 for its level design, nice winter themes, and just soothing music as well. Also, Bartholomew is here. Remember him from Year of the Dragon? Enter the Dragonfly remembers. One randomly out of place cutscene later, one of which I feel should have been placed somewhere near the beginning by the way. Honey Marsh is rather in the middle. I would like it more if it wasn't as gray and honestly chunky in level design. I do like the general theme of this level though, as well as the Tom Kenny Gator NPCs.
You do know what fun is, don't you, Spyro? Spyro.
Thieves' Den was probably the low point of this whole package. I'm pretty convinced this was the last level they worked on based on the design and atmosphere. The wizards in this level honestly just feel broken with how Wing Shield works, requiring you to be incredibly precise in aiming the things right at them. And as cool as Treasure coming to life sounds, they make it so obvious as to which are fake and which are real. Not the prettiest level in the bunch. Jurassic Jungle, however, ends on a rather solid note. I do like the idea behind this level, working with metallic dinosaurs and ice lizards by the dozen. This one's personally in my top 3, along with Monkey Monastery in the middle and Dragonfly Dojo at the top. However, the boss fight in this game is arguably the worst I have ever played. And yes, I said boss, indicating Ripto is the only boss in the entire game. And you fight him 3 times based on your game completion percentage, and each and every time is more time consuming and anticlimactic than the next. It actually rivals that of Nasty Nork from Spyro 1, it's that much of a letdown. After Ripto gives us his
Hocus pocus!
he'll surround himself in a shield of ice balls, your job being to torch his ass to shreds. Ripto, by the way, homes in pretty damn hard. Just try to avoid his incoming projectiles, it's virtually impossible. Chase him around, torch him to death, he cries vengeance, cut to credits. No joke, no exaggeration, that's literally how the big bad Ripto battle goes down. Here's round 2. Do the same thing again, only this time he'll grow bigger in size, blocking you off with fire this time. So now it's more of the same, only with ice instead of fire. More of his I'll be back crap, and cut to credits. And should you manage to 100% this game, you're going to be so disappointed it's not even funny. Hope you're ready for this, by the way, because this is literally how the game ends. I don't even care about spoilers anymore. Repeat the first 2 rounds with Ripto, then you move on to the final round. Ripto turns himself into a monstrous freak of nature, wielding power. And by power, I mean slamming his club into the ground and hurling projectiles at you. In addition, his weak spot is completely random, meaning you'll have a very likely or unlikely chance of getting his club stuck, cueing you to use your electricity on him. Do this a couple times and you're done. Cue the big finale. Ripto will get into a hissy fit over his failures, swearing vengeance for the 3rd time in a row, and all this ends back in the Dragon Realms where they discuss everything's back to normal. Spyro winks at the camera, and cue credits. No bonus level, no fun minigames to explore, no special award of any kind, just a wink, and the end.
What? So I did all that for nothing?
Yep, I'm afraid so, Spyro. And that was the end of Spyro, Enter the Dragonfly.
Well, that was a load of shit.
Honestly, I've never played more of a broken mess of a game than this, right here. Granted, it's not technically the worst video game ever made, not even in the entire history of mankind, mind you. But as far as Spyro's concerned, this game seriously damaged his reputation on a grand scale. Easily the lowest common denominator in the world of Spyro the Dragon. While it does have its fun moments, those moments are rather few and far in between, in the midst of all these glitches, errors, and uncomfortable vibes from the very, very bizarre nature of the game. However, there is an important lesson to be learned from this game, a lesson I too need to take into consideration. The next time we're telling ourselves how badly we want a Spyro game to be out and ready, be careful what you wish for, cause if the devs are forced into a position where they gotta hurry up to get the game out of there, this is pretty much what we'll get. A lackluster, mediocre product with very little promise to offer. A game with rather good concepts and ideas, but exceedingly horrible execution. Just give them time to polish up our purple dragon, and good things will come to those who wait. Well, that's over with. Hopefully the next Spyro game I look into has much better ground to cover. Thanks for watching, and I'll be recovering for now. Peace!
What? What?
Exactly!